Spawn On Me is the premier podcast spotlighting people of color. Every week, we talk news, what we've been playing, and tell you who's invited to the cookout. Our show is all about talking about gaming through a prism of blackness, because we are the culture. Welcome to Brookago, y'all.
This is the Spawn On Me podcast. I'm your host, Kahlief Adams. What the deal be? I hope you're all doing really, really well. I am excited. I have lots of fun things to share. We have a dope show for you all today. We have lots of things to talk about. Of course, we have some fun guests rocking with us this week. Again, if you came by last week, thank you so much for coming through and hanging out with us. You know, we had a blast talking about all the new stuff, debuted the new studio. We have a lot of things kind of coming in store for that as well. I'm trying to figure it out, trying to make it work, trying to figure out how to get it all together because it is very, very busy here in Brookago. But the first thing I have to do is give a huge shout out to our wonderful friends over at Team Liquid. Team Liquid is again sponsoring Spawn On Me. They have come back. They have come back into the fold, into Brookago. They have become our boys and our girls and our friends and our fam coming through, hanging out with us. I am rocking the lovely, the beautiful Miles Morales line of gear. This is gorgeous. It has the dope Miles Morales spider on it. It has all the cool stuff on it. It is silky. It makes me look like I almost have abs, but I don't. But it's fantastic in that way because it makes my body feel good. Dr. Jones says I look like a Mortal Kombat character. Yeah, Chubby is the Mortal Kombat character that I would be if I was a Mortal Kombat character in the space. We would have to figure that out in a real way. But I have to give massive amounts of love again to the folks over at Team Liquid for believing in us, for rocking with us. It has been a wonderful partnership with them. They have been really fantastic at coming through and hanging out with us in bigger ways. So I am infinitely excited to be rocking with them and to have them sponsor the show. Again, I am excited for the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk to our friends over from Facebook Gaming, and we're also going to talk a little bit about the PogChamp stuff later. I have lots of thoughts about that a little bit later in the show. But for now, we're going to bring on our wonderful guest, my man, my mellow, the smooth kind of fellow. First time coming to Brookago, we have the global gaming manager from Facebook Gaming, Leo Lebe.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is fantastic. This is really fun.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you here. I'm very, very happy to bring you on and to meet you for the first time. I was super impressed with the conversation that you all kind of sparked towards the end of last year, kind of middle towards the end of last year, about kind of bringing more Black folks to the space in the gaming space and on the streaming platform that you rock with. I want to dig into that for sure. I want to make sure we touch on that because it's a big part of the conversation for today. But I think one of the things that we love to do here in Brookago, of course, is we want to talk about the origin stories of everyone that come on to the show. Again, like as a show that wants to spotlight people of color in the gaming industry and wants to showcase the amazing folks that we have in this industry who look like us, who are doing that work, who understand the culture. I want to give the folks at home a little bit of understanding about you. I want to give you a spotlight to be able to talk about, the work that you've been doing and how you got to this place to be working with Facebook Gaming in this way.
You bet. All right. So, origin story, man, how much time do we have? 25
as much as you need.
Hours.
As much
All
as
right,
you need.
that's good. Well, you got to watch out because my last name means talks a lot in my native language. So that's always a very dangerous. Like, take all the time you want. Man, my origin story. So I guess we'll focus on my origin story in gaming. But what I would say is, I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. My father is from a tribe in eastern Uganda. My last name, Lebe, actually does mean talks a lot. My mom is from New York City. She's a second generation Russian immigrant. They met in the Peace Corps. That's a whole long story. So we'll fast forward many years and just talk about games. I've always played games. I've always loved games. Games have been everything to me. I've been to the hospital over games. We'll save that story for a different time. Literally, my brother and I fighting, and it ended with a hockey stick to the face. So,
oh my God! What?
Yeah. Well, okay. So he was playing Defender on the 2600, and he flipped it He flipped Defender, and it was awesome. But I'm his little brother, and I was kind of angry that he was playing for too long, so I unplugged it. That's how you get a hockey stick to the face. When you unplug, I learned the lesson the hard way. Don't interfere when magic is happening in the game space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so but I've just always loved games. Like it's been something that I'm extraordinarily passionate about. I stream on the side. I play a ton of games. It's been what I've always been about. I started off after undergrad as a management consultant. Then I went to business school, and I was in B school. I was interviewing for a lot of jobs, at top consulting firms, Bain, BCG, Booz, like you name it. And every time, they'd ask me these questions about why are you excited to do this work? And I was like, because it's awesome and you get to do all these amazing things and help people. And they'd be looking at me, very conservative and like, really, that's interesting. And so needless to say, I didn't make it through the final round interviews for my summer internship. But what happened is I learned about marketing as like a thing. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I met a guy named Jamie Berger from Disney Interactive. And I remember sitting down with him at my business school. And he said, I'm here from Disney Consumer Products, but really I'm from Disney Interactive. Would you like to work in video games? And this was back in like 2000, 2001. And it was like, what do you mean work in video games? You can actually do that? So after I got my first job, it was at Disney Interactive. Like that was it. My origin story was winning the lottery from this is something I've been passionate about my entire life. And then finding somebody who's willing to give me an opportunity and give me a shot.
Yeah, I mean it feels like there's a lot of those conversations happening often where it is that you walked into a room, you met some folks who understood the talent that you have and why that's important, and then kind of holding your hand through it a little bit and kind of bringing you to the next step.
Yes,
those stories are so kind of happen so often. It's like, do you remember your first mentor in the space?
Oh my gosh. I do. I had several, although I would say, so Jamie was definitely a mentor of mine. Like he was the guy who introduced me to games, and I worked for a guy named Don Polite. So I was working on Game Boy Advance games, PlayStation games. When I was at Disney, I worked on, The Matrix Online. Actually, sorry, no, I worked on Tron 2.0 with a guy named Jace Hall. Who's from Monolith Productions. He was the CEO. If you haven't talked to Jace, you need to talk to Jace.
I think I've heard of Jace for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jace was at Monolith, and then he left to go to Warner Brothers, and like we kept talking, and so I wound up going to Warner WB Games. It's actually Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. I worked on the WB Games logo before that was even a thing, and was working on the Matrix Online. So I worked with another guy named Travis Williams. And I don't know if you know Travis, but Travis is a great guy. And he's now working on a bunch of Avatar stuff. So he's a good guy. You got to look up Travis. We can make that happen. But these were my mentors. These are finding people, man, you're bringing me all the way back. When I think about it, like of the people that I mentioned,
sure,
I got extraordinarily lucky. 3 of them were Black.
Huh.
And I've never thought about that until right now. But yeah, Don Polite, Travis Williams, Jace Hall, and then Jamie Berger. And Jamie Berger, he's the guy who started it all. So I give him a ton of credit. But you're right, like mentors are extraordinarily important. Finding people who will help teach you and believe in the ability to just like find your potential in the space.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can name names. I hope that's cool. Like I just appreciate people, man.
No, of course. I mean, I think again, the one of the main parts of this show is to show and talk about the history of folks in this industry. I think one of the last year when we were doing the Black in Gaming Awards, there were so many folks who kind of came up afterwards and kind of came through the conversation were saying, I had no idea who these folks were, right?
Yeah.
Who are these folks who were like you're talking about? Because we had like Reggie Fils-Aimé was there and Mike Pondsmith was there, and there were a whole bunch of other folks who were in that space who are like fundamental people in this industry who are like veterans of decades and all that kind of stuff. But you don't hear their names that often because we just don't really do that job well of showcasing and sharing their names up. So you sharing those folks that have helped you out, that's like infinitely amazing to be able to have that kind of shared for the audience and everybody at home. So
no, happy to do it. The world is small. The world is so small, and I know that that's really a part of this conversation. It's just like, first of all, it always feels like you can count on one hand or two hands the number of Black people in the video games industry. Especially back then, you were just like, there was maybe 10, 15 of us tops, maybe more, but we were just not connected to each other in a real meaningful and positive way. So you always felt like you were a little bit alone. I could name like many more names, but it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think, chat right now was like, what's going on? Who? I was like, yeah, man. We only bring illustrious guests here. We only bring the dope folks here. So
thank you.
One of the things that the main thing I definitely wanted to poke at today. So again, going back to the conversation that happened last year, again, we've had so many conversations around the internet and around the industry about what is the industry going to do in the moment or in the span of time that's going to really look at and pick apart and help, Black creators. There was, again, that conversation that happened a lot around June, especially about, all these companies are kind of coming in and there's a lot of stuff that's happening and there's energy now, but the energy is going to either dissipate or it's not going to stay in the space. You saw a lot of folks kind of come in and do that work and then kind of leave. But I think I was super impressed and super just like what happened when Facebook announced that it was doing this Black Creator Program. And it was a really amazing moment to see so many people get really excited about not only Facebook gaming, but about the work that you were all doing in this space. So for the folks who are catching up on the information and catching up on that news, give the folks a little bit of information about, what the program is and what it's trying to do.
Sure. So, as you said, 2020 was quite the year in many different ways. And you found a lot of corporations and entities like stepping up and doing something like important or trying to activate in different ways that they can. I think Facebook announced, $200 million to support Black-owned businesses and organizations. There was a lot of momentum and there were things that were happening. And we just decided, look, we can play a role in this as well. So we launched the the Black Gaming Creator Program, where we allocated $10 million over 2 years. And we're trying to find amazing Black creators and bring them to the platform and give them an opportunity, to shine and do what they do best, which is showing off their love for games, building great community and be the shining stars that I know that they can be. And the whole impetus of this thing, and sorry if I'm answering all the questions at one time, but
no. We'll bridge off some of that.
Yeah, man, this was just about creating opportunity for people. And maybe this is a wacky thing to say, but look, I've been Black my entire life. And I know the struggle. I know the pain. I know we could talk about issues of social justice, equity, inclusion in spades. I was a double major in public policy and politics in college. But the reality is the best thing that we can do when we are in positions of power is to use our positions to help lift other people up and give people the opportunity to shine. So that's what it was about. It was like, hey, let's make a commitment. Let's do something awesome. Let's recognize that this space needs to move forward and give people an opportunity.
Yeah. I remember very specifically the energy that happened around the day that it was announced. And there's been so many conversations, and we're going to dig into some of those later in the show about, the current platform that we're on in Twitch, and how there's been lots of conversations from, Black streamers about, not feeling like they're getting their due, not feeling like they're safe in the space to be able to do the work that they want to do. And it was interesting to see just how so many folks kind of, looked at Facebook gaming in a way, maybe even with new eyes again, to say like, maybe this is a place where we can maybe do some cool stuff and maybe do some good work over there. So cool. Far, how have things been for the folks who have kind of come over?
It's been so So we're about to get ready to like announce, let's say, the first class, of people coming on board. It's been absolutely incredible. There's been many thousands of people that have applied, more than I ever even thought was going to happen. And let me also illustrate that it's not just about, we're going to, give people a salary and have them produce their content on Facebook Gaming.
Sure.
It's providing mentorship. It's providing a forum, a way for people to communicate with each other, like making sure we're invested in best practices, conversations, and really providing a support network. Because if we don't do that, then we will have failed, because I think that there's a lot of institutions that exist, whether it's formal or informal, for people who don't look like us.
Right.
And so it's important to try to provide a little bit of structure and format. So I think it's been absolutely fantastic. I've loved, watching and learning about people that maybe nobody's ever heard of, but they're all going to be, they're the future stars. They're burning bright, and I love it. So it's been really good. It's been really, really good.
That's great. I mean, I think that one of the coolest parts has been seeing people be excited again about the prospect of doing that work. I think, I've been lucky to have been able to prosper here on Twitch, and I'm always like looking at stuff to be like, what's the landscape look like right now? What's the conversation that's happening in a lot of different ways there. It's been especially cool to see a very loud and proud campaign that happened initially, with King Richard being kind of the face of of kind of talking about that.
He's great.
Who again, like, love that cat's work. He's always been super cool to watch.
100%.
Always brings great energy in some of those spaces. And I know since you haven't announced all the folks yet, one of the things that I have been curious about has been Black women getting their due in streaming services and in streaming spaces, right? Is how important that is, because again,
super important.
We see, I get my fair due of crap on the internet, but Black women get that tenfold, and being able to acknowledge that out loud and saying that that's what the case has been. One of the big conversations has been, how do you keep the Black streamers safe? How do you keep everybody safe on your platform, but especially with the very special versions of vitriol that we wind up getting on the internet? How is the conversations happening between you all and the team about how you want to kind of combat that stuff?
You bet. So I think first is being aware that the hate and the vitriol and the divisiveness exist. Right. And of course, we're well aware. You can't be on the internet or in gaming without going, oh my gosh, why are there so many foolish people out there willing to say horrible things?
Sure.
The second thing is to be like, well, we can't solve every problem in the world, but Facebook as a platform, has had community standards for a long time. There's good things about it. There might be bad things about it. Everybody's going to find something to complain about. But if you think about it from a platform perspective, our goal is to build community. Our goal is to build people, to bring people together. So there's just like a base level of trying to create a healthy and positive environment. That's where we started, number one. Number two, if people go through our website, and you can go to fb.gg/creator, and you can start learning about our program. We've also set really clear standards and principles for how we expect our community to behave. We've made a very strong commitment to diversity and inclusion and making sure that people are good citizens of the world. Number one is being aware. Number two is starting to establish rules. Number three is by trying to set a really good example and say, this is the bar for positivity and inclusion on our platform, and these are the people that we want to celebrate. And then number four is the actual practical development of tools. So earlier in the year, we launched special chat features and chat rules, so we can establish when you're coming in to engage with the community, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, making sure that you're enabling and empowering moderators, etc. Look, there's always going to be gaps. There's always more work to be done. I would at Facebook, we have a saying called "the journey is only 1% finished," and it's always going to be 1% finished, because there's always more work to do. There's going to be more ways for us to protect people. But if we can, be aware, acknowledge, set up rules, build tools, then we're starting our way on that journey. And we want to create a safe space for people. And we also want to make sure that they're able to be who they are, be their true, authentic selves on our platform. I want them to be authentic selves on every platform.
Sure.
sorry, one last thing. Like, you got me going.
No, of
And
course.
like it's so important that we demonstrate positivity and highlight the capabilities of these amazing people. And I firmly believe that even if we just do that a little bit, just a little bit, and we create, and that's why I love what you do. It's you have the opportunity to move the world forward. And if you're moving the world forward, always, even if it's like the most incremental small amount, like that's a positive change, and it'll yield massive benefits, whether it's tomorrow or in the future. So, I'm just appreciative of that opportunity, and Facebook Gaming has been a great place to try and lead with that spirit in mind, to the best of our ability.
Yeah, and I love you. I love that you shared that, and that's a philosophy that I have as well. Is
awesome.
There are so many things that are happening in the world right now where we are affected. We know that we are constantly under siege by lots of different things in the space. And to a certain extent, for lots of folks who are streamers on whatever platform you're on, streaming is a respite from some of that, and being able to kind of get away from some of that.
That's right.
Connect with your
That's
communities
right.
and
100%
spaces with them. So it's cool to hear you talking about how you want those folks to be able to do that work and feel safe and be in a good place to be able to do it in ways that authentically are themselves in that way.
Yeah, man.
One of the hard things about any D&I kind of activation is trying to figure out good ways around, KPIs and things like that. Of like, oh, so what's the, you did this cool thing, so what's it going to actually do and yield and some of that stuff. I'm not going to get into like super deep KPI conversations on this show. I'll poke you offline about some of that stuff just because I'm curious.
Sure.
But,
no, I'm happy to talk about it. That's fine.
But I'm curious because like one of these things that I notice often is that when companies kind of come into the space to do a very specific thing, there is a want from the community to see, I would say unrealistically, instant results. And it's like, well, you didn't hit this metric that I had in my mind that didn't have a reason to be there in the first place, but this is the thing that I had an expectation to see, and it didn't hit that mark. When you think about this process for these creators, and when you're kind of, onboarding them into the process of like, this is what this looks like, this is what you're going to be able to do with us, when you kind of build that out, when you talk about like, here's the goal for you, what's that kind of look like internally for you all in the team to say like, what's the metric of success that you're thinking about when it comes to, this particular program?
You bet. You would think that there would be 10,000 different answers to this question.
Yeah.
And that it would be extraordinarily complicated, and I would have like, teams and rooms filled with data scientists and people saying, oh, well, you hit this number, it's a failure. Or you didn't hit this number, it's a failure. You hit this number, it's a success, blah, blah, blah. I think, we're in a really unique position as a company and as a brand, as a platform that believes in gaming, to just do our best to invest in people. So the metrics of success is, have we generated positive communities for folks? Have we given a significant number of people the opportunity to be successful? We are going to, of course, there's tons of dashboards. We're going to, teach people about what it takes to be successful on the platform and ways they can measure. Like, I want people to monetize. I want people to start, making enough money so they can like have a living streaming games. Like there are a bunch of incremental steps, and there are probably specific numbers, sure, that we could throw out. But at the end of the day, like, success was launching the Facebook, Black Gaming Creator Program and saying we're committing $10 million over 2 years to make this happen. So like the success in a way has already happened. Now for me personally, actually, scrap that. For the team, success is making sure we've done our best job to give people the opportunity to be successful. And I'm not trying to be vague and non-specific for a reason. What I'm I'm actually trying to be extraordinarily specific.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is, if we just hire a bunch of people and then leave them to like ride or die, that's not the right thing to do by this audience and by these people, you know. So there, it's going to work great in some cases. There's going to be some others that need a lot of love, but come on, let's I know you appreciate and love real talk.
Yeah,
the real talk on this stuff is that gaming has been a really difficult place for, you know, people of color for a long time. We're not going to heal that overnight. We're not going to change it overnight. There are creators that we've seen who've been, you know, kicking ass and taking names and producing amazing content, but never had the opportunity to shine.
Right.
And so, you know, if we can provide them an opportunity to do so, awesome. It's going to take time. There are networks and systems and ways that the world just works for others that, you know, we can't build overnight, but we can start. And it's the starting that's important.
Everyone in the chat literally is giving you hands, like clap. They're like, that's what I'm talking about. And that's again, fantastic to hear. That's the stuff that I think when I'm hearing the conversations online, I'm hearing, you know, a lot of the gripes that have been had in multiple places. And I think, you know, there's been an interesting kind of conversation that always happens in streaming spaces about, you know, does the platform care about me? Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important thing to dig into.
Absolutely.
You know, because you're spending time there, you're spending sweat equity, you're spending a lot of stuff in those spaces, doing that work in those places. And it sounds like just from even that particular part of the conversation, that is a main bullet point for you all to kind of like dig into that part of the conversation too, which I find to be really, really refreshing in that way as well. That's pretty great. I like that.
Cool. Thanks, man. I think that, like, you know, the best job we can do is just to try to set a good example, you know? And again, we're in a very fortunate position. Like I've been at Facebook for 5+ years. You know, we've been successful in the games business. We have a big, you know, play business. We have a big watch business, blah, 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 blah. But what that all sets us up for is the ability to, you know, really put people at the forefront and believe in the capabilities of people and build for people. And, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't say that is a luxury that not many people have.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important to acknowledge that as well, I think.
Yeah. One of the other things that I wanted to dig into, and this is the last question before I let you go, which I think is, time is flying, by the way.
Sorry, man. I told you I talk a lot.
No. This has been great. Everyone in the chat has been loving the conversation. So, you know,
cool.
I'm sure you've gained a bunch of fans tonight. One of the things that I really appreciate as well from, you know, the content creator space, from the, you know, trying to get in where you fit in space, is the fact that from a fundamental standpoint of and tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to get this wrong, but the folks who wind up kind of getting into the program, those folks will then wind up getting a salary to stream on the platform. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that being the foundation of what the program does, when did that part of the conversation come into play? Because for me, you know, we're lucky. I'm lucky to have a decent job. You know, I've done okay. You know, but I think there's a big gap there from a technological standpoint, from a money standpoint, where a lot of streamers, they feel like I can't really do what I want to do because of that financial gap there. Am I going to buy that piece of equipment, or am I going to, you know, do this other thing that I've been trying to do?
Right. Right.
Well, how important was it to think about that, especially because we also know that Black and brown folks are disproportionately served when it comes to, you know, the market, and disproportionately served
That's right. when
it comes to, you know, our finances in comparison to our white counterparts. How important was it for that to be a main part of this program as well?
I appreciate the lead in for sure. And, you know, it's in one respect, it's a layup for me to say extraordinarily important, you know, but let's unpack that a little bit. Right. So yes, it's important that we provide people an opportunity, you know, to get some compensation for what they do and what they're so passionate about, and just to start that ball rolling. You know, how well somebody is able to do over time, right? It's the platform's responsibility to make sure that people can find an audience and make sure that people can grow that audience and get exposure. It's also our responsibility to build a great bunch of monetization services. So, you know, tipping, subscriptions, advertising, or whatever. And we monetize really well for our creators. But it's also our responsibility to recognize that, again, when we talk about opportunity, and I think that's been like a major theme of this conversation, is that the opportunity just hasn't been there for a lot of folks, you know, and I believe that the reason why it's extraordinarily important is to provide that opportunity and provide that platform. And, you know, it's about, there's a cool graphic, if everybody wants to Google it, that talks about, you know, equality, equity, and inclusion. And, you know, I'm not going to go through the whole, you know, multi-hours long PhD analysis of like the difference between those three things. But when we have the opportunity to start bringing equity to the table, in terms of, in this case, compensation for people, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that when I hear people talk about how excited they are to have had kind of like the opportunity to do it, right? Or to apply for it.
Yeah. Right.
That
to see what happens.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm looking to get my voice out there in a bigger way, trying to figure out ways to do this work in a broader perspective. Again, I'm super happy that we had you on the show today. I think that our community here in Brookago, our friends here on Twitch, I think a lot of the folks here who have been trying to figure out not only, you know, if they decide to stay on this platform or move over to the others or you know, try to, you know, apply for the next round of creators. I think, you know, as a 2K fan of the Madden 2K rivalry when there's 2K5 out in the world, competition,
there you go,
is a good thing.
OG.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
For sure. Competition is a fantastic thing. I think it's nice to be able to see a program that is thinking specifically about us in that way. Putting money where your mouth is from a Facebook company perspective is huge. And hearing that, you know, streamers and content creators will be able to come into that platform and then do that work and then be paid for what they're going to be doing in a way that is guaranteed, which is important, right? You sign that contract, you're guaranteed that money, which is extremely important. So, Leo, thank you so much for coming through and hanging out with us today. I have to snag you one more time at some point to come on and come
Let's
on
do
back
it.
to the show, because I'm dying to talk to you about Games for Change as well.
Yes, please.
Huge fan of Games for Change. And would love to have you back on the show at some point.
No, that would be wonderful. I think this is an amazing opportunity. I'm so appreciative of the work that you do, and you know, giving people a voice is critically important, especially in these times, and just lifting folks up with some positivity. So I love it. I could go on for hours and hours and hours and hours. I can't wait to come back. We have so much more to talk about. Thank you for the opportunity. Really exciting, and I can't thank you enough.
Everybody in the chat, give Leo some love. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter and check out more of the work that they're going to be doing over at Facebook Gaming and over at Games for Change. That's going to be happening soon this year. I did get my press pass stuff in. I got it in. Yeah, I got it in.
Yes.
So I'll be bugging all of you on that end as well. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. Again, massive love and shout out to our folks over at Team Liquid for hooking us up and for repping Brookago strong this week. And for the rest of the month, we're going to be rocking with them with their sponsorship of all the cool stuff that we're doing. We'll be right back after this. Leo, we'll see you in a little bit. Much love.
Yeah, man. Peace out. Love you.